Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm so pleased to be here myself and to introduce these two wonderful poets, one known to me a little bit and the other a little bit less. Most of the time that Jon Mulrooney and I have spent together is in the context of the improvisatory typewriter poetry troupe First Impression, which has typed poems at arts fairs, farmers markets, and apartment building lounges all over the Boston area. Our typical setup involves handing a sheet of paper from poet to poet, each seated at a typewriter. I always liked going first, coming up with some implausible curveball to throw at my friends. But more than that, I always liked it when Jon was the last of us to work on a poem. He always had a special talent for pulling and weaving together the dissimilar threads of other poets' work, and also for bringing in something new and unexpected at the last minute to fish out from within the dissimilarity something living, some kind of slippery aliveness that distinguishes a poem from a set of weird words. His own work is no different, and I'm excited to hear it tonight. Most of the time I've spent with Eleni Sikelianos was on a behind-the-scenes tour of the collections at the Museum of Comparative Zoology, where I work, in advance of her reading for the Woodbury Poetry Room in 2017. Though, as I expect will become clear, her interest in the forms of life on Earth goes much further back than that. I had the strange experience today with Eleni's work at the front of my mind to attend a day-long webinar about the digitization of natural history collections for a part of my work. I spend my day with animal specimens and their data, and poems from Eleni's new book, Your Kingdom, really hit home for me. They will too for you, because what is home for us, if not this planet? What are we, if not suffused with each other's DNA, built from other species' blueprints, alternately nourished and decomposed by bacteria we barely understand? This mixture and mess is the compost from which Eleni's work grows. The epic sweep and cosmic perspective of this book put it in a lineage that goes back at least to Lucretius on the nature of the universe. And on top of that, it's funny and it's fun. It's a great book. I'm going to finish up with the poets' official bios, but quickly, you must be admonished in several ways. You must be excellent to each other. If you like a poet's reading, you must convey that to them somehow, even if it's just a thumbs up from across the room. I'm a stickler on that point. And if you can, you must buy their book and read them. If the acquisitive spirit doesn't move you, then give the book away to someone who will love it. Therewith and henceforth, admonishment concluded. Jon Mulrooney is a poet, filmmaker, and musician living in Somerville, Mass. He is the author of Spooky Action from Madres Press and a chapbook, If You See Something, Say Something, from the Anchorite Press, and co-producer of the award-winning documentary The Peacemaker from Central Square Films. His poems have appeared in various journals, including Fulcrum, Pressed Wafer, Fold'em Zine, and Spoke. For a decade, he was the principal organizer of the Boston Poetry Marathon and serves as poetry editor for the Arts Views and Boog City. Is that Boog or Boog? Boog. Boog. He regularly records and performs with a number of musical groups in the greater Boston area. He is professor of English at Bridgewater State University. Eleni Sikelianos has translated 3 books from the French by Jacques Robard, Sabine Macher, and Mohamed Lefta, and her own work has been translated into over a dozen languages, with 7 books in French and 2 in Greek. Her honors include 2 National Endowment for the Arts Fellowships and 2 Gertrude Stein Awards, a Fulbright, a Seeger Fellowship at Princeton, a New York Foundation for the Arts Award, the James D. Phelan Award, and residencies at UCross, Bogliasco, Yaddo, and Gerasi. Her work has been anthologized in many places: the Norton Anthology of Postmodern Poetry, Norton's American Hybrid, Satellite Convulsions, Poems from Tin House, A Best of Fence, Out of Everywhere, Linguistically Innovative Women Poets in North America and the UK, etc., and has appeared in the New York Times Magazine, Bomb, Conjunctions, Gulf Coast, The Kenyon Review, and more. Please welcome them both.
Thank you so much for that, Jon. A slippery aliveness, something to which I aspire. Am I already? Oh, it's my phone. Oh, it's doing that. It's doing that little thing. Everything is happening. Isn't that the was it McLuhan, who said in the future everything will be happening at once, right? So it is now all happening at once, which is great. I'm really honored to be reading Eleni. It's great work that I love. We're going alphabetical because we always obey Fanny. This is the way this evening works. A lot of the poems in this book are in. Actually, better if I do this. Okay, a lot of the poems in this book are in conversation with other poets, and as I think John noted that's I always like weaving in and out of the work of the poets I love. This is a poem called Merely. It's for Anselm Berrigan. It takes 5 minutes to read 2 poems called Jim Brodie. Then the Braintree train comes, and there are still 3 more poems called Jim Brodie, because a year has passed since the emergency when I lost the patron saint of memory, and the city's siren choired outside my window, while for all 4 quarters of the Super Bowl I lay in my hospital bed, waiting for my sister to come around again. There will come a time when I will look at the word singularity and know what it really means. This will be before or after the coming of the singularity, and before or after the city emerges as a city where time, present, and past fight over who will blame it on the coin toss when they don't beat the spread. And in this time, the real, less and less really, strange moods of silence broken by the broken-hearted breath of fair jumpers assing through the cars of a Braintree train, thrashing pigeons, both possum and chameleon, gray on gray tile, really Pyrrhic pigeon drop-kicked and clutched by art or nature, camouflaged, jiu-jitsued feet and feathers, all a rage not silent that wants to feel fortified by the stability of any invocation, what we might do when we aren't seeking credit for merely becoming awake, or merely remembering not to block a doorway when you stand at a terminal station for 5 full minutes gazing at an open field and feel the moist folds of its leaves through your eyes in the mirror of what merely really is. And after Angie Malenko. And luncheon in the garden was cut short by summer showers. You second-guessed whether you should have invited the ship's captain. You gave up after a while, trying to distract the heroine from being distracted by a clatter of whisperers quoting in the hallway. The real trouble with banality is that it is so alive. So many things Mao said, Martha Stewart said better. The rain took the day, and it was the rain's day. For a time, it seemed the rain was sleeping its way to the top, with all those clouds all rubbing together, making a big wet show in the sky, but then making every guest go dripping back up the steps to huddle in the foyer of the main house, like lobster tails drizzled with a mustard vinaigrette, making 100 flowers blossom and 100 schools of thought contend as the most delicately crafted tales must contend with history, the perfectly imagined confronting the oozing and dripping. There are rules to hors d'oeuvres. Like there are rules to shipbuilding, there are usually things that are best left out of either. I'm sorry if I didn't know that everyone had heard the story about how I fell in love with the sexiest shipwreck in town and wanted to go find her, but instead I went to Fez. In Fez, you think you're in Sevilla. In Sevilla, you think you're in Beirut. Belgrade and Sligo are both cut by rivers, but the familiar goes to its usual fate. The mountains fall into the lake in which they are reflected. The rain keeps falling down on the one you loved who disappeared from one town, only to show up on the stair landing holding a grandparent's diary with recipes clipped in the margins. But the heroine wanted none of it, knew the trouble when she saw it, like I knew your man from Madagascar was really from Mozambique, and Pascal knew it was best to believe the whisperers whispered of God. And if we were to drift too far from them, la déluge, la peste, la chute. But the heroine sought the crevice in the day that opened to détente, talk of trouble with banditry, vitello tenato on a bed of fiddleheads, tales of banquets at your uncle's dacha. Let's go back inside. You're getting wet. Kevin Gallagher, everybody. Gone, not gone. For Fanny Howe. Surely this snow must be over soon. The world sobs to assert its story, to burst its eggshell song. Surely this must be the last snow, like a mask over the gone world. The world gone general, always bursting forth, is cancelled in the stillness of the street. All the dances wait, unless it is in heaven. Tomorrow the stiff curl of memory, I cannot see any more the baobab tree on the road to the lighthouse, the woman who clutched her luggage like children who might wander off, the adolescent red-tailed hawk who possessed me with a stare. All cancelled. I cannot see what I have written, but this must be the last snow arriving on the street in the dark. Every word strikes through. Words cancelled are falling snow, Venetian blind test pattern of a cancelled show. The steady build on the incline of a neighbor's roof, scattered drifts on the flat garage top, the lone light, orange glow in apartment hallways at dawn. Today we'll be shopping. I go to supermarkets because I am incapable of comprehending beauty and knowing that beauty is only beauty when unfulfilled. And by that no, I may be unprepared for what is coming. That I fear memory is gone when some material's analog vanishes. The last snow, the snow that will be gone soon, covers the world, the shows where the world used to be. Another in these poems that connect directly with other poets. Everybody know the poet Joe Sorovolo? If you don't, you should know the poet Joe Sorovolo. You should get to know the poet Joe Sorovolo. One of the things he used to do is read. There's a lot of audio recordings of him. He would just sort of read with the radio on, like in the like. So, and we all know the Bee Gees, right? So this is a poem for Joe Sorovolo and the Bee Gees. That I am afraid and fear is a bulbous void growing within me that will burst, and that I am afraid a void will obliterate me or suffocate me, or that it is not a void, but a grenade of even more trouble that will burst and shatter all with shrapnel. That it is a presence, a shape like a sudden bout of stomachache before you know how bad it's going to get. That today is a day to listen to terms of psychic warfare and recall the architecture of other mornings, how their promise prompted recordings that made a new shape of the day, a primitive recording of a day when, way back in the past, when I knew what it was to be the youngest in the tribe and be the first to learn about the antelope from the cave painting before seeing its breath plume in a cold morning around its quivering nostrils. Before the instrument of my body learned it was a drum to anticipate days to come and not the other way around. And to know then, as I did know, that I would never be part of the tribe again. That it is raining all the time here, and it seems the whole world is burning, and that we are naming the fires like we used to name the rain. That it is not Huskudoo now, but you, reading in your bedroom over the sound of the Bee Gees, that you have a quaver in your voice that sounds like a fear I know, but is not afraid to read over the Bee Gees on the radio, their saccharine song of desperate men trapped within the mines of New York, which was thought more glamorous than Aberfon, that I'm afraid of the mines in my own head and all the miners in them trapped and dying, and that they stay silent to conserve oxygen and are so afraid to sing that they too are surrounded by sleep and want to sing like you do of weeping rivers and the lonesome dogs and the chatter of birds' wings, but are afraid to burst the void that is or is not a void, that is the nothing or is the something that is worse than nothing, that they are not prepared for what to do in the event of something happening to me. Which is a line from that Bee Gees song. I am. I thought I was. I'm going to read a poem. Several of the poems in the book are also cantatas. I identify them as cantatas as a way of thinking about the songs. This is a cantata for pareidolia, which is the it's what when you see faces in stuff like Jesus in your soup or in the clouds or something like that. Cantata for pareidolia. Faces in the hedgerows appear in the late dusk. The muddy green darkens, reveals fluid smiles, placid anguishes, quivers of faces, hardly faces, the light lighting out, a question unanswered. A darkness revealed the ruddy face of dusk fade into the nothing burger of darkness. Darkness beneath the dusk above the wreckage of a pickup truck at the mouth of the abandoned village and its wreckage that has graduated to ruin. Blank pedestals covered in lichens and moss, the gnome hogs absent, smashed with missionary zeal, as far as we can discern. A face in darkness is itself darkness soon enough. A mouse in a humane trap makes little plastic sounds in a dusk that reveals this day like any other, slipping into a different like any other. A like any other you thought you knew the day you took a different mouse humanely to the landfill as a benevolent god. The slate blue clouds. A panther with a third eye, a tray of figs and lemons, a nest of cobalt eggs or ritual stones. A copse of trees ready to burst, an explosion of starlings seen from the shore that mimic the quick motion of steam up from the sink that obfuscate the hedgerows disappearing in the dusk before both are forgotten. A motion of matter departicularizing into the undiscernible. A smashing of idols, a filtering out of photons, a Heraclitan stream of one shape saying no, and then many shapes saying no, no, no. A day in which the shape of another day fits perfectly like a you-sized disguise of you. Your own face covered by this face, unlike any other you know but haven't seen, like the faces in the hedgerows you can no longer discern, a blank like any other, like the day we went to that store in the thawing snow, but the store was closed, the shafts of sunlight finding their way beneath the bridge, the highway that spanned the river astonished the roofs and gutters. The whole day was revealed as the day that other days had only been the placeholder for, so that even when we went back out into the light and the familiar territory, it was new, a familiarity that had not happened before. Gnomehog means ship, or God, or maybe ship and God, or maybe Godship. A magic that crosses water. No one knows that, or even if they guarded the abandoned village in the time before it was abandoned, but at least there are songs about it. Songs of smashed idols that might just have been cracked cars or just abandoned ships that sing, I was from where I was from until I was from somewhere else. I used to wear a smock that was ever renewed and came through near the wreckage, came through the near wreckage, near came through the wreckage, came near through the wreckage. It was all around me and it was all, and it was the unseasonable around me, all the music. It was all without measure, and occasionally it made you feel sympathy or empathy for a creature perceived to be weaker than oneself, a creature nearly through the wreckage, but the wreckage meant it could not be measured. The music, the mouse in the humane trap, who is the same mouse who was in the humane trap but looks different each time, or is a different mouse who looks the same each time, like the school shooter just now, who looks like the school shooter then, the face that will stay, wanting to not stay, a shape that says no, 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 forever in a Heraclitan stream of bullets. He looks like the last like any other you would like to see before becoming the like any other you never thought you'd be. If you don't take a mouse over a body of water or over a major highway, it will return home, as it were, to what you call your home, or wherever you have not abandoned yet. And so you have really been taking the same mouse to the abandoned landfill if you won't cross the water in the ship of whatever God you wish to be. The doctor can't comment on the ages of the victims or the prognosis of the wounded. The plain, answerable questions put on dumb show to keep us from the unanswerable. How it is that someday wreckage graduates to ruin. The arm of the woman gesticulating on a playground obscures her face, hands open and close like birds trapped in hedgerows. Reach out to touch the human form not fully in the frame that cannot be discerned, seeking a shape that will say yes. And I think I'm going to close with this poem. This is title of the book is Spooky Action. The book is Spooky Action, which is something I know, something I don't know a whole lot about, and entanglement and the different adjacent concepts for spooky action, and spooky action at a distance, entanglement at a distance, all these things. I play with them pretty liberally. Entanglement at solstice. In one city, light fades. The light is fading to reveal the darkness on the day that is the longest day. And it's your last chance to play the chess master who will beat you. And the time it takes to divide an hour for the second time by 60, as Sumerians did. And so now, so do you. Divide the hour into superior, highly composite numbers. And the tablet and the eye are two sides of a triangle, and the third side is the shape of a lightning bolt seen at dusk on the longest day, is the shape of Coltrane's tenor looming, lashing from the speakers, is the shape of a decision to take down the mobile of the girl before her mirror, the decision to become entangled in the last thing that was in the room before you moved in. 3D display faded with the sun, morning sun in that room, the face and the reflected face replicated on both sides and strung out across the chopstick-sized level plane like rabbits strung on a hunter's line. In one city, the mobile of the painting is thrown away, a print of which hung in the apartment in another city near where the original Girl Before Her Mirror hung, and that print then moved to another city near where the original Girl Before Her Mirror was painted. A city in which the light shows us that we are the imperfect recollection of light, shadows that show where light wished to be but failed. On the longest day, the last light dapples the bare shoulders of the chess masters that cannot cling or wait to suss out the queen's whim in the time it takes to divide an hour for the second time by 60. And on the longest day, a girl wanders among the masters with the Girl Before Her Mirror on her t-shirt, the day you threw away a mobile but you failed to throw away before, or were unable but did in the time it takes to divide an hour for the second time by 60, of a painting you neither care for nor hate. And on that day, you can peel a yellow sticky from a compact disc with impressions, spiritual, Brasilia scrawled on it, and something unreadable in a hand you recognize as your own. A hand no longer yours that made cuneiform on a slipshod yellow sticky. Brasilia is a fake capital. Braziers of famous dolls. Brothers, Jerusalem is ours. Or was that an artificial capital stuffed into an envelope containing a goodbye note that was carried from a city that was increment to a city that was avalanche, in a folder of postcards, New Orleans, Cairo, Caravaca, where I was once the marquis, and a picture of you, who are always making something out of nothing, with the writer of a different goodbye note, and a picture of Sonny Sharrock and Alice Coltrane. You can peel a yellow sticky off a CD, the particles of glue cascade in the air, like tufts of incense from a thurible. The particles of glue, the visible and the invisible too, the smallest particles, smaller than the bit depth of the song's impressions, spiritual, Brasilia, first assembled at the village vanguard as particles of sound in a different increment of the city, where they reassembled on a CD when John Coltrane loomed and lashed from the speakers, in the apartment where the print of the Girl Before Her Mirror hung. In this city, the chess masters pack up the plastic boards because it is getting dark, the pieces hard to distinguish. Each unrepeatable set of human foibles become the seeming same, no longer parts of a whole, their movement unintelligible, their action spooky. The girl with the Girl Before Her Mirror on her shirt disintegrating into the parting light, the particles of which are like so much of your own life, scrawled into something unreadable, and a hand you recognize is no longer yours. The hand of a person who could not answer why you cling to this and not to that, or why we divide the hour into 60 and then again for a second time, and not another number and then again for a second time, or why this city on the longest day, cracked by perfect lightning, lets you throw away and crumble the glue that entangled you, both close up and at a distance.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much for listening, and please welcome Eleni Sikelianos.
Hi there. So happy to be here. That was fantastic. There you are. That was fantastic poems. So glad to hear them. And I'm so happy to be here. How is this? Do I have to use this? Kind of, yeah, no? Is it okay if I'm here, or do you guys prefer if I'm over here? And
Doesn't seem to be helping.
it doesn't be, it's not helping that much? Okay. Okay. I'm so grateful to have Fanny Howe sitting right here. I'm so grateful to James and this incredible, I don't want to call it a shrine because it's a living home to poetry, and to Jon for inviting me. And I'm so grateful to Jon for introducing us, in particular, Jon's aforementioned back scenes tour of the Blaschka glass models at Harvard were so important to this book and such an inspiration. So thank you. I'm just gonna, I'll talk between things sometimes and sometimes I won't. I'm gonna read a little kind of, well, the first poem, that's what it is. A kind of little first poem. Doesn't have a title. Oh, time, but I should. Okay. Blind lady in the storm, tapping the snowbank with her red tipped stick, a stiff, slender, ticking tongue. I saw it and asked Siri to write that down. From the back seat, Maggie said, "Why can't your mom write?" "Because she's driving," says daughter. "Watch what you say. She's a poet. She takes notes." Then it ended up in the book. This very, very wise daughter. I'm going to read this opening essay, or part of this opening essay poem. So just, I don't know that you need to know that it's in prose lines, most of it, but it is. Nothing in evolution makes sense except in the light of phylogeny. Notes. One July, among the California redwoods, I watched a fire-colored salamander lumber over a log, and so my mind was ignited to meditate on shoulder girdles. Amphibians invented them. In the mid-19th century, the German biologist Ernst Haeckel coined the term phylogeny to contain the notion of the organismal lineages we all passed through. You too may have admired the drawings of diatoms, shells, jellyfish, radiolarians, and spiders he sketched to describe life on Earth. Phyla, phili, tribe, stem, branch, geni, gen, born, birth. Phylogeny, all the plants who grew to be you, all the animals who did. I don't mean because you are the telos causa, the reason or end result, and I don't mean because you ate them. I mean because they invented Earth. Eventually, they also invented you. They twisted and turned and licked and hissed and allowed you to exist. Phylogeny, a word I loved, was invented by a man who believed in eugenics. A word in turn invented by a man who invented nurture versus nature. You, Ev, good, well, geni, gen, birth, born. Ecology, phylum, protista are also words first made in Haeckel's mounding mouth. Here I am at the bottom of Haeckel's world riddle. Every word I utter haunted, in conflict with all the animals. Can anything ever be held away from human tongues? Some hunters in ritual sideways the names for bears, Arctus, Ursus, a taboo on naming what is wild. Instead of bear, a hunter said, the brown one, honey eater, good calf, honey pig. As soon as a bear crept out of a word did its work to erase the bear. The animals' names light up in crackling flames. Names main and unmain. Now we were rolling around on earth, draping our tongues in Latin things. We always said The bird doesn't care what you call it. That's one way I'm different from a bird. The bird takes flight from its word. So, but yeah, a lot of this book was inspired by watching a salamander crawl over a log. And I always invite people to just go roll your shoulders and remember that we can thank salamanders and amphibians for being able to do that. And even the hips, if you can wiggle them while you're sitting. This poem, since we were doing poems inspired by other poets, this poem begins with a line by Carla Herrmann. In the beginning, there was no doom. The large grass-eating mammals were absent, and so were the grasslands for them to feed upon. Rodents and seed-eating birds, the rose-crowned fruit dove and carunculated caracara, no. The great burgeoning of flowering plants had not yet taken place, so no bees, no. Corals had arisen and corals had exited. Hard-hooved animals with grain-crushing molars had not arrived, nor had the carnivores with meat-ripping incisors to eat them. No hooves left over in the field, no fridge-sized elephant seal's body slamming on the beach, nor amphibian intestines. Obviously, no Christmas, and no Christmas tree worms had yet extended their feathery plumes and delicate radials for trapping scraps of food. No to party politics. Yes to genetic drift. In this picture, your ancestors are shadowy creatures. We'll get back to you when more fossil data becomes available. So, person, what next? What if we saved it all, friend? I leave the word saved to let the pattern speak. I'm going to skip this poem, but I'll just tell you that it ends on, that's how dumb you are. Just read the ends of poems. If you haven't seen the Blaschka glass models, I highly recommend them. Are some of them on view now, John? Yeah. So it was a Bohemian father and son team who made exquisite, accurate models of all kinds of flowers, but also sea creatures before aquaria were widespread and you could easily send specimens around. So students of marine life and biology use these glass models, and they're really incredible. And it's not quite an uncanny valley, but their eyes are so alive that there's this kind of living quality to the eyes. So go check those out. Now I'm name checking books of poems too. I'm going to read from the title poem. And by the way, hello, you are from Detroit. I just realized that you were working a few blocks from my mom, and I just recognized you a few poems ago. Welcome. We met at a store near my mom's house or apartment in Detroit, and you just started Harvard Divinity School, right? Yes, so exciting. I bought something from you. Okay, so I'm going to read from the title poem, Your Kingdom. It's really long. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's about a 55-page poem. And I just got so excited about thinking about all these other inventions by other animals that we carry around every single moment. And an influence for me for the past 20 or so years has been Lynn Margulis, who was the biologist who really, she didn't come up with the notion of symbiogenesis, the notion that that evolution was fueled not just by competition, but also by species working together and merging. But she was the one who really developed it. And one of the things she talks about is how even right now, as we're digesting that duck and fish we had for dinner, even that is these early chemical reactions, the first chemical reactions on Earth, and our mitochondria is evidence of several different kinds of unicellular organisms coming together. So I was thinking about that, and it's just astonishing to think about, our ears, that's reptiles, amphibians again, and reptiles having to adapt to airborne sound waves. So yeah, that we're here carrying all these animals inside of us. And I guess in particular as a kind of I guess rebuttal to this constant question that comes up in philosophy and biology and elsewhere. In fact, my daughter just started at NYU, and the professor asked this: what distinguishes animals from humans? And I'm actually interested in the other question: what actually makes us the same? What connects us, not what distinguishes us. And okay, let's see. When I was writing this, I was going on hikes with a neurobiologist, and she was so inspiring because she would just lie. This was in California. She would lie on the ground and watch banana slugs mate for like 3 hours. So banana slugs make an appearance. It's important to know that they're hermaphroditic, and part of the mating, I don't know, this isn't important to know, but I'm telling you, part of the mating process involves like nipping a penis off and becoming another gender. So when you hear about the banana slugs, you'll know what I mean. Yeah. So I'm going to read the first 6 minutes or so of this poem. If you like, let the body feel all its own evolution inside, opening flagella and feathers and fingers, door by door, a ragged neuron dangling like a participle to hear a bare sound. On the path, find a red eye-hole rabbit, fat of the bulbous stalk pecked out to the core. A raptor did that. So you can bore back to the salamander you once were, straggling under the skin. Grope toward the protozoa, snagging on the rise toward placental knowing. Who developed eyes for you, agape in open waters? The worm that made a kidney-like chamber burrows in, directing your heart leftward in nodal cascade, slow at your hagfish spine. Who will bury your bones, investigate a redwood rain, or tap the garnet of your heartwood bark? Put your flat needles on dry ice to inquire after your tree family, father or mother in the fairy ring next to you. Find you are most closely related to grass, if you are a redwood. Your hexaploid breathing pores gently closing at night. When did you begin your coexistence with flowering plants from which arose the bee, before the African honey badger, but after the dark protoplanetary disk of dust grains surrounding the sun become the earth? You had no nouns, did you? Feel the gravitational sorting in the pre-lung graphite as it marked toward tissue? The split in prokaryotes when ether lipids did you no good, but still you learned to unleash energy, breaking, making bonds, and house some ancient groping grains in your gut, foraging on gases. And who knows what phototropic algae did karate, chopping water, splitting to feed on sunlight? And thus you can eat an apple after bacon, benefiting from the invention of glucose storage. But the rugged sex life of the hermaphroditic banana slug, nipping at its partner's current penis. Later, it's a vagina in liquid crystal slime, has little to do with you, but you can watch it and wonder at the structure of your own snot's likeness to its plural wetnesses. Now that you have learned to traffic phonemes plus genes in their own bio-chassis delivery system, glot will stop in your sit-e or button, made possible by obstructed airflow. When your organs made for eating, breathing, began to cry out, the tongue in torsion to express your thought, and it was strange how you altered your formant frequencies. I'm going to stop for a minute for a little footnote. One of the things we gave up for speech, or one of the things we had to accept when we created speech, was that we might choke. Backing up just a sec. It was strange how you altered your formant frequencies, and I becomes a you. Around the fire you switch to pure sound in the dark, and I know what you mean. Turn out the lights and say these words. Love, heard, draft, heard, then draw them on the board. Behold, a thought flower. No vocally impaired whale, dolphin, or bird could express its song in visual display, you say, forgetting a body breaching, spouting, winging is its own authorship. Yet matter is still sometimes deaf to your summoning, metal filings that won't cohere, or the quantal sounds of a photon can't be convened to your mind, where what flashes may be your proto-reptilian hindbrain, what you learned from lizards, gathered to sleep, to swallow, to hear, to see, to feel, even to dream. And later, you lost your wet snout as you moved toward daylight, wax of the world made malleable as you reached to touch it. Your face a footnote to when you were swimming mouth first to taste and test what was there, because soon you needed a head to see and hear your food. Someone had dropped the exoskeleton like a weight into deep water, plummeting toward your dark vertebral lineage in blue. Could you even see that color? And now you could bend with ease in each direction, your fine-tuned tongue and auditory equipment bristling. You arrange your syllables like a flock of self-forming starlings in a draft aimed out your mouth and at an ear. There is another here. You see the dim traceries of human faces, charcoal in a night chamber, or so pale a pupil could not find such a pearl in a milk pool, and other warm and golden hues as the tone world presents itself as sculpted, and so you rise. Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to read one more poem. I'm going to read this black hole poem. Let's see if I can find it. Oh yeah, actually it might be kind of helpful to hear. Has anyone heard the sound of two black holes colliding? Yeah. No? You know, you've never heard that? What? What was that?
Presidential space.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's see if we can find it. I was so taken with this sound and the image that NASA hired somebody to create, which you'll have to look up. It really does look like a big pig snout in the sky. Let's see if we can get a sound here. I think we can. Oh, we can get an ad. We'll have an ad for 2, 1. Let's see. Ah, no, that is not the sound of two black holes.
Find a health plan for $10 or less per month.
Yeah, that's terrible. Maybe it is two black holes.
Today for coverage starting the 1st of next month.
That's so sad. Let's see what's gonna happen. Is it gonna come on? No, it's not. Okay, I'll just have to mimic it.
Do a cover.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a cover. I might need your help though. It goes like this. It's pretty simple to make. But you know what? What's so interesting, of course, we don't know what it sounds like. That's the sound they made up for it. But that's what Nessa says it sounds like. So delicately positioned mirrors track the squeezing and stretching of space as gravitational waves go by, is the title. Two black holes slid toward each other, making a pig's big nostril holes in the sky. One big snout sniffing out space. Did you hear the rattling antennas? My question is it rhythmic? Time wrapped around you in a snug, dark glove, and you fell loving out of light, like you fell out of light, or light rushed out of you. When a mass 31 times the sun and 125 times collide, they create a smash hole of 53 solar masses. I'd say you're missing some. If 3 equals thee, that is what you hear now, hissing. Not the fridge's home hum, not the sound of money gushing, but the chirp of ancient space, like gossip sound going sideways across dark, lakish skies. What gossip did space make? Does it rhyme? The breathing in of all living, the exhalation of the dead. At the uncrisp edge, space twists, divides, and time trembles, scrambles, and leaks like weather. Did you tear yourself out of the visible universe? Yes, one day I did. You'll have to find that sound on your own. Thank you.